Hello, today is January 4th. I'm in Netherlands, and Masako and I are still with Catherine Austin Fitz. We've been with her for about a month. Extremely interesting. We had a nice long conversation today, and we're about to go into another one very soon that could go into the evening, so I need to do this right now. Many people are asking about Venezuela, naturally, and what comes next. Well, let's see. We're going to see what comes next. Wars are unpredictable and they grow. Now, keep in mind, as I've mentioned so many times before, you have to take this into historical context and in context of what's happening around the world, because this is not a separate thing that's just happening out there in left field. It's all related, for instance, to actually Taiwan and Okinawa. It's related to Ukraine and Israel, Gaza, Suez, Strait of Malacca, Strait of Hormuz, what's going on with Iran, very closely related, actually, with the control of the dollar, for instance. There's people that would like to knock the dollar off the pedestal, and they're working hard on it, and mostly because the United States has weaponized the dollar and set conditions. We've weakened our own currency, we've weakened our own country, and been abusive, and people, they see the weakness, and they also see the opportunity. So there's a lot of players involved, as you can imagine. There's the Zionists who have completely infiltrated our government. Trump is a Zionist, of course. There's the Chinese Communist Party. There's the Russians. There's so many. And now we look down with what's happening in the Caribbean area. Will Cuba be next? I don't know. I mean, it would make sense, obviously. Nicaragua would make sense. But the battleground is not confined to Venezuela. It's not confined at all. It's unrestricted. It's global. It's literally happening all over the world. And so what happens next? Now, I know people continue to get upset. This is 2026 now, and I continue to point out that Trump is not on our side. I know it angers people. I totally get it. Don't have time for it. Don't have time. This is 2026. We have to understand who the real players are here. It's not as if something is being done on our behalf in enforcing Monroe Doctrine, which has long since been dead, and taking Venezuela. That's not what this is about. It has nothing to do with drug trafficking. I think pretty much everybody who is paying any attention at all realize this has zero to do with drug trafficking. It has to do with routes and resources and on a different level ideology, control of the world, actually. And keep in mind that area has been in a state of conflict with globalist conflict for about 500 years, ever since Columbus first showed up, and Balboa and the rest, and so many others showed up, and then the games began on a global scale. It wasn't at that point Indians fighting each other any longer. You had the Spanish get involved, of course, and basically everybody under the sun got involved. Of course, the English and the Scottish and the Dutch were there as well, and of course, deeply, and the French. I mean, obviously, eventually, America was formed, and it was just so many players. And Portuguese, obviously, and Spanish, bigly, and the indigenous people of so many sorts. In our library in Japan, Masako and I, we can't even keep track of how many native groups there are in the Caribbean alone. I mean, along the Gulf of Mexico, or whatever you want to call it, Gulf of America and South America. It's a huge amount. Many of them are still there. Excuse me. The evil spirits I pushed them out. So, and speaking of evil spirits, now when it comes time to who's zooming who here, who's on whose side, we can clearly see that the people who poisoned us are not on our side. So we have to be realistic that China is obviously not on our side, but they're not the ones who pushed the death jabs on us. And this cannot be forgotten. You can never take that off the table, that the people that are saying, hey, we're here to rescue you, are the ones who are still poisoning us, actively poisoning us, and destroying the United States in so many ways. Those are the same people that opened the borders, right? Those are the many groups. Let's talk about HIAS as one, Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society. They have active offices in Venezuela and Colombia, Ecuador, Panama, Costa Rica, Mexico, United States, all over the place. And you can go to highest.org and look. Now, keep in mind, and also across Asia and Africa, keep in mind the places that highest draws people from and the places that they put them into are both targeted, right? So if you look on highest.org, Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society, so it's HIAS.org, you'll see that they brag about bringing in over 100,000 from Venezuela. And those are going into mostly the United States. Some will be in Colombia. Some will be in Argentina. Argentina has just told me that not the president, but others have told me that they don't plan to let any of the Venezuelans in. I don't know how that'll actually play out in reality. I've been told the same from Panama. So Panama and Argentina both tell me the same thing. They're not going to let them in. Let's see how it plays out. I just got a message from Darien Gap about 30 minutes ago, and there's nobody coming through at this time, just like 2 or 5 per day. And I'm not exactly sure who's going through, but it's basically nothing. It's just a drip drop. But will that open up again? I do not know. At this point, you see the information campaign making it look like Venezuelans are running back to Venezuela and they're very happy. And I'm sure many Venezuelans are, but we've seen this before. We have to wait for a period of time to see how this unfolds. When the Venezuelans realize we're not there to save them and to take Maduro, we're there to take the oil. I mean, we're there to take the gold. We're there to take the resources. We're there to control that. We don't care about the people. I say we, the people that are using the name of the United States and the forces of the United States to do this. It's not about defending Americans either. If it were about defending Americans, the death jabs never would have been pushed out. You wouldn't have children looking like pin cushions from death jabs. We wouldn't have had millions of people come in and not be deported other than in small numbers. And so we're clearly part of the target matrix. But you see, for instance, HIAS, they bring people out of target countries and into target countries. They're not wasting any motion. They're not not wasting any emotion and not wasting any motion. They are, not just HIAS, there's others, Catholic Charities and whatnot. But you'll see that Venezuela has been targeted for quite a while. And HIAS has been bringing Venezuelans out and destabilizing different countries with them, such as the United States and Panama. And now, keep in mind, those countries are still intact. My country, United States, is still intact, more or less, but the effects are quite real. And they're compounding as people have more babies and the economy goes in the direction that it's going. So what I'm getting to is these players are all still intact. In Panama, all of the United Nations and the NGOs, they're still intact. They're there at the City of Knowledge, at Ciudad del Saber, in the City of Knowledge in Panama. It's near Panama City. It's at the old Fort Clayton. So veterans of Panama know where I'm talking about. It's right beside Miraflores locks, right? The locks in the canal. So you can overlook the canal. You're overlooking Miraflores locks which is the first locks that you go through or come out of when you're going to the Pacific, right? Or from the Pacific. And so it's on the Pacific side. And not very far from there, you can see from that same campus, Ciudad del Saber, you can see that Chinese bridge being built in the distance. It's right there being built. So all that's how important that little area is that the NGOs have taken over in Panama City. Now, the Panamanians have rightly become angry and taken down the Chinese park, a memorial there, and next to the bridge that they're building, which is right next to or across the canal from Hutchison-Whampoa Port that China controls on the Pacific side. They control another one on the Atlantic side. And so China is clearly going for Panama, as are the Zionists. The main currents of this fight, big Godzilla versus Mothra, are Zionist and China. Also, Russia's obviously hugely involved. They're not to be discounted at all. Let's just say that complex of China, Russia, Iran, that's one complex of allies, and then you've got United States and the Zionists, let's say, because Israel is actually basically an aircraft carrier. Because keep in mind, the Israelis too are being also destroyed. They're being destroyed by Zionists. The Israelis are being destroyed by drugs, just like Americans are, just like the Dutch are, right? And intoxicants in general. They're being destroyed by the same weapons. I've spent a lot of time with Israelis, a lot of time. I mean, I traveled with them a lot in India, Nepal, Thailand, and Laos, and different places. I've been to Israel, not for very long. I toured around for, I don't know, less than 2 weeks, just enough to see it, and went to various places where, they were being hit with rockets and that sort of. That was a long time ago. And so, at the end of the day, I've spent a lot of time with Israelis, and it's clear that they're being targeted too. They are not all victims. They are also being attacked. But remember, October 7th was a false flag. Straight up, hardcore, very obvious. Anybody that doesn't see that yet, I don't even have time for them, because this is for serious people talk, right? It's like the same with the Trump death jab, or whoever's behind it. Anybody that's still blaming it on Fauci, we don't have time for them. This is big stuff. So will this spread? I think it will spread. That's my intuition, is that this will spread. Will you see people flood out of Venezuela at some point? Right now, there appears to be people going into Venezuela. I don't know how much of that is just information more. I'm sure some will go back, but we're going to have to wait and see. These things take time to form and collect themselves, like a hurricane. It takes time to form, and it moves around. But this is a system of hurricanes, and so they're very, very unpredictable, actually. And so my intuition is that eventually we're going to see the mood will change in Venezuela, and you may see problems, and I'm just guessing, obviously, and that we'll see people leaving Venezuela again. And I don't know, of course. Nobody knows what's going to happen. Nobody. It doesn't mean, even if they're the people directly involved in doing everything, they just don't know. There's too many players, too many wild cards. But my intuition is that this will go bad, as wars often do, and in that it'll spread. We may see, obviously, Cuba may come under attack from us, Nicaragua, obviously, and other places. There's a giant port off the coast of Florida in the Bahamas. There's Antigua. There's so many places out there where, if you look at the ports that China is operating in our area, in the United States. China's operating, they have dope farms all over the United States. So we're going to run off to Venezuela and arrest the president there for drug stuff while we let Chinese come in, and they're growing dope all over the United States. It's all in the news. Epoch Times, many people have reported it, including Epoch Times, right? More recently. And so we have allowed Chinese to come in and do this. Not to mention, again, that Trump is the number one jab pusher on planet Earth, right? And so it has already killed huge numbers of people, and Americans. And this is why it might seem people are constantly saying, well, what about this? Don't you support Trump now? And I'm like, let's go back to first principle basics here. He tried to kill all of us, right? Right? And it may yet work. I don't know. Nobody seems to know. I don't. And I doubt anybody watching this knows, no matter how deeply they are in the medical world or even in that jab world, because there's too many things going on besides the jab and other components of this war, ranging from screwworms to shutting off the natural gas from Nord Stream and Groningen, which is not far from me here in Netherlands, to see electricity's out for maybe 45,000 Germans right now, and somebody shut off the electricity, apparent some sort of terrorist attack. I don't know what's going on. We see attacks, a church burned down here in Netherlands on New Year's. Obviously, this is likely part of the same. This is a very comprehensive war, and people that are waging this on us are not all China. They're not all Russia. In fact, what can Russia really do on such a global scale? It's very difficult. The only players that can do this on a truly global scale are United States and increasingly China. And so at the end of the day, it's going to grow. I think that's my intuition, and I'm making my plans accordingly. I will go back to Panama at some time. I see a lot of people that are pushing out to Colombia, Panama, Venezuela, and other places. And by the way, I've gotten various notes, including one just minutes before I came on here. Clearly an information war is building. Money is being pumped into it to do an information war, to sell war in Venezuela. Literally just came into me from somebody who definitely would know, like 100%. He was offered actually to contract to go down to do information war in Venezuela to sell the war. So, I mean, when you see, those who study information war know what that means. If they're offering contracts to sell war in Venezuela, I mean, there you go. It's clearly going to grow. They didn't go down there to arrest Maduro for drugs, obviously. They went down there. The army's still intact. Everybody's still intact. They're down there for the routes and resources. And so that's going to end up in conflict. Are the Chinese and the Russians and the Iranians and the Venezuelans and the Cubans and everybody else going to give up their resources that they want? Is China going to give up that oil coming from Venezuela? No, of course not. There's other pressure points all over the world, and people are going to push these in the ways that they can. They're going to do it imperfectly. They're going to do it based on their own timing, like what's going to happen with Japan, what's going to happen with Korea, what's going to happen when China says, well, we need to push buttons over on this part of the world, what's going to happen with Iran next. Will Iran start launching missiles on Israel again? They've proven that they can do it with accuracy. What are the Houthis in Yemen going to do? What's UAE going to do? What's Saudi going to do? Right? What's Qatar going to do? What are all these many players? This is a multiplayer game, and a lot of serious players out there with serious position to do things in their spheres of influence, which is large. Qatar's been interested in Panama for a long time, and we have a huge base there. I've been to our base there in Qatar. It's quite significant. We've got obviously Fifth Fleet headquarters there in Bahrain, and so this is big deal. Big players all over the place, conflicting. Some allies are allies on one thing and not allies on another thing, such as what's going on with the Houthis. You see the Somaliland situation there in northern Africa, on the Horn of Africa. That has nothing to do with freeing anybody in Somaliland. Nobody cares about the people in Somaliland. That has to do with the route to the Red Sea. That's what that's about. That's why the Chinese are in Djibouti. That's why Americans are in Djibouti. That's why everybody under the sun goes to Djibouti, including Japanese, have watchful eyes in Djibouti. Everybody does, right? Look where Djibouti is. It's right next to Somaliland, next to Eritrea, right? So control of these routes and resources is what this is all about, an ideology, of course. But again, once you boil off the ideology, it comes down to routes and resources. And ultimately, the vast majority, when you boil it off, is going to be routes and resources, including human resources. That's why we saw King Philip II in Spain running around all over the world fighting anybody who wasn't Catholic, right? Wherever it was, wherever he can find a non-Catholic, you're going to get burned alive at the stake or whatever, right? That's why Philippines is named after King Philip today, right? So, I mean, that was human resources. He wanted everybody to be Catholic. He wanted everybody to be under that architecture, right? So that's what this is about, routes and resources. There's been 500 years of Western war in and around the Venezuela area, right? Panama, obviously, and these things are not going to end. The Florida Straits are a vital sea route for the United States, and that can be interrupted, not to mention the Panama Canal. And so at the end of the day, it's going to kick off, and so I would orient yourself accordingly. Nobody knows how it's going to go, but it's clearly already kicked off, and it's almost certainly going to grow. At the rate that it grows and how it grows, nobody knows. But keep in mind, we've been building a huge embassy in Guatemala for a while now. Roads have been being built in Belize. We've gone down there and looked at them. We've gone down to Guatemala and looked at that giant embassy that the United States is putting in. We're not putting that embassy in there for nothing. We're putting that embassy in as a place to put a government in a box. That's obvious, right? Keep in mind, there's very serious Zionist influence in Guatemala, right? Which is Guatemala is on the southern border. Guatemala and Belize are the southern border of Mexico, and that's another very interesting place. And so this is big players doing big things, big guns, big money, big drugs, big everything. It's going to be game on